Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody out there. Welcome to a very, very special game this evening here on the Erasmus Expeditions. We are going to be playing the first session of a Highlander-themed tournament using the Rhesus, not Rhesus, that's a completely different game system. The Reflections game system, which is based on another RPG by a man named Tobie Abad, and it's called A Single Moment. Definitely go check those out if this kind of thing interests you. This is going to be a long one, folks. Okay, so this is going to be a PvP single elimination style tournament. There are 8 Immortals total. We're going to weed them down a pair at a time until at the very, very end, there's only one. Ed has done so in pairs. As you can see, I'm joined by 2 wonderful, beautiful gentlemen this evening who are going to try their best to become friends and then kill one another. So, before I get any further in this business, I'm going to pass it over to these fine players so that they can do introductions, plug anything that they want to, and yeah, then we'll get rolling. So, Joe, why don't you go first?
How's everybody doing? I'm Joe. I come from a little tiny channel, the 1 Foot Wall, just doing a bunch of live plays, having fun. That's about. I'm supposed to get into a name or anything yet for the character. I will hold off and wait, I guess, if
either way
it makes sense. Okay. As far as I know, I've got a name and kind of location. I've Andrew Hooper, from England. I guess that's enough for now. I don't have much else.
I'm excited, man. You and I have been kind of running similar circles for a long time now, and we haven't had the chance to meet in a game yet, and I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, it's been a couple near misses.
Yes, sir. All right, and next up, Jason.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jason Smith. I have a little YouTube channel called Smith Forge Gaming where I put up live plays of games that I've been running lately. Swing on by if you want to take a look. I will welcome the views and the likes. I've been playing with Jeremy off and on for a while now, and one of the best storytellers that is in this group, bar none. This first time I've played with Joe here, so I'm very excited about that. I will be taking on the role of a man named William Black-Eyed McCullen. He's from the early 1700s period of the Caribbean expansion. And that's really what I've got so far with that. Really looking forward to this because I've seen this game played, and it's very intriguing to me, so can't wait to get through this.
Muted, brother.
Here I am talking to myself. So, yes, welcome to both of you. Jason, I think we've managed to play, like you said, in a few games together. I think you've played in 2 on my channel so far, maybe 3. But, yeah, you've been probably one of the people who has watched my channel the longest and talked to me because of it, which was awesome. So I'm very, very glad to get you back into another game. And we've met in person 3 times now, which is awesome.
That we have.
All right. Tonight, although I am technically the GM of the game, this game typically runs without one. I'm kind of winging it a little bit in that matter, just because it's going to be easier to facilitate the tournament as a person who's present here. So what I'm going to be doing is kind of setting up the scenes and giving them the prompts. And then I will actually be adjudicating whether or not they achieve the goals and objectives that they set for themselves. Just to kind of keep it all fair and love and war. Anything else? Oh, yeah. the two men who are playing this evening are gentlemen, as far as I know. But gentlemen, as though they may be, this is an adult game. There's going to be adult language, more than likely, and it's about decapitating people. So if that kind of thing is too much for you, then something else is probably better. But thank you all the same. I wanted to thank everybody who is tuning in live this evening, as well as anybody who may be watching in the future. I'm very, very excited about this game to see how this works. And I think it's going to be really a lot of fun. So before we get started, do you guys have any questions?
No. I mean, I'll ask you not to insult me by calling me a gentleman again, but other than that, we're good to go.
I bet you, sir. You are a gentleman.
Yeah, I'm all set here as well.
Perfect. All right, guys. Just a bit more, and then I will be able to turn it fully over to you. And then I will shut up, and you guys won't hear much from me. There's pretty much only 3 rules. The rules are that when somebody speaks something into existence, it transpires and cannot be negated. So you can get creative about why it may not be true, but it can't be undone. Another player cannot force another to take, one player cannot force another to take actions. And lastly, the players cannot die until the final duel. They can come close. Well, I guess in this game they could technically die, but not die.
I was about to say that first death is kind of necessary, isn't it?
Truth.
Who wants to live forever?
All right, the Queen quotes start already. Love it. All right. So I'll have a little bit to read here, then I will give you guys the prologue, and then we'll move into this first scene. Here we go. Thought about reading this in Sean Connery's voice, and then I decided that would just be... All right, here we go. From the dawn of time we came, moving silently down through the centuries, living many secret lives. In the days before memory, there were the Immortals. We were with you then, and we are with you now. Throughout the history of men, there has been a secret war waged by powerful beings known as the Immortals. Most of these beings live out normal lives with no knowledge of their true nature, their true power. But each of them carries within themselves the seeds of their immortality, which is only triggered upon death by unnatural and violent causes. It is only when they experience this first death that they become immortal. Immortals can only be truly killed by decapitation. When one mortal decapitates another, the winner of the battle receives a transfer of power from the deceased. This transfer of knowledge and experience is called the Quickening. Eventually, all immortals must cross blades and do battle until there is only one left alive. The survivor will receive the prize, which enables its winner to gain unlimited knowledge of the universe. In the end, there can be only one. We move now to our prologue. The prologue sequence in Reflections is stated at the beginning of the game, and then once again at the finale. This scene will start with both immortals facing each other, ready to have their final duel, and recounting the events that brought them to this moment. Each player reads aloud the first part of the statement given, and then answers immediately following. This call and response is how the two players set the scene for our upcoming story. If you gentlemen both would prepare your character sheets so that you can have the prologue. Whichever of you wishes can take player 1, the other player 2.
Joe, I'm not picky. If you'd like to go first, be my guest.
All right. I also am not picky, but just so we don't get stuck in a no, after you, no, after you, like the Looney Tunes were frequent to do, I'll go ahead and take one. All right. So our paths first crossed when, let's see, in a period of history. I heard you mention 1700s. I was also thinking around then. So our paths first crossed in the 1700s during a crossing of the Atlantic to the New World.
That sounds good.
I'm writing it out here.
No, you're good. I'm excited about this already. So, Jason, you're up with player 2, the second line.
All right. Okay, when it says now we stand, is the now like the duel that we're about to partake in?
The very final duel between you. Basically, describe the battlefield. Where are you?
Oh, okay. So right now we stand along the swampy shores of South Florida, just outside of Miami's reach.
Excellent. And now back to you, Joe.
All right, sorry, 1 sec. I'm scribbling down that one also. All right. I remember when you were my rescuer.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right.
You're making me out to be too good of a guy, man. I think you're going to be disappointed. All right. I rescued you. This feud started. I'm going to say a few months after the transatlantic voyage. I was probably an immortal, maybe a couple of decades prior to this. Like, I'm guessing when the pirates took over the island of Nassau, I met some untimely death there, and you probably became a immortal somewhere after we crossed. So this feud began when I felt the presence of your immortality for the first time. I hope that doesn't bend the rules too much there, Jeremy.
Oh, it's good for me. It worked with me. Or I am okay with that, as it were. All right. Our next spot. My name is Andrew Hooper. I have been wronged, and I am here for your head.
My name is William McCullen, and I was the wrongdoer, and I will take yours. With that pronouncement, I pull out a very well-maintained cutlass with a ornate handguard going over my hand.
All right, and he pulls out a basket-hilted English backsword with a tuft of blue velvet inside the handle and a matching blue tassel. It's well polished and engraved with the maker's mark on one edge and a scrawl on the other.
Never took you for a dandy.
Ah, you never did seem to take much at all. But tonight you'll take my blade, sir. There can be only one.
Excellent. All right. Scene 1. The first death. This is the time you first met. You did not know each other before, but one of you experienced their first death, and somehow you found one another. You may not have trusted each other at first, but you earned that trust. Perhaps you parted afterward for decades or even centuries, but your fates were linked forever from this moment. Please think about who you are and in what period of history that this takes place. Perhaps one of you became the first teacher to the other, imparting the oral traditions and rules of being an immortal. The scene should be about learning what it is to be an immortal. So each of you, please look over your list of objectives. These are in a secret objective that you'll send to me in our private chat. And depending on whether you achieve this goal or not, this objective, will earn you dice that you can use at the very end of the game. If you fail, you still get dice, so don't worry. They're just different dice. They're called hatred dice. Okay, so whenever you have your objective chosen, this is something that you want to try to convince the other person to do usually, or to give you, or whatever. Jason, you probably want to put it in Facebook chat because everybody can see that in the game there. Yep. So send those to me in Facebook chat, and I will make a notation of them. And then we will dive into the scene and play until the scene feels like it's finished. Pretty cool with that?
Very much so.
Awesome. Okay, so once you guys are ready and you've sent me your objective, you can begin. Just to give them a little bit more time. Oh, that might be them. Hang on. Okay. All right. Whenever you guys are ready.
All right. So, it's already established that you met your end quite before me. So I think it seems natural that perhaps this first death was possibly my first death that you bore witness to. So I think this is a time Andrew would have been established. He'd already kind of worked up and made not a fortune, mind you, just enough funds to continue moving, working on a tobacco plantation through part of the bit, and he had kind of earned his money that way and learned a lot about farming and growing here in this new world, and had begun to make the journey south into the Georgian area with hopes of opening his own farm. So I think along the way down there, the traveling group, or the, I guess, caravan of sorts, moving south along the road, taking in the sights, also looking for seed. We were ambushed by Native Americans on the road.
I dig it. Just writing that down here. Okay. Yeah, I would say that I saw you along the voyage to the New World, and got to know you a little bit through some card games and dice games to help pass the time. And I learned a bit about you from England, and see that you came from money, and maybe not direct money, but somewhere along the line, there's some money in your family, and or at least I'm convinced of that. So I took a shine to you that way, and became kind of your guide to the New World, I would guess, showing you the ins and outs of the port that we had entered. And along several months, I had obviously stayed at sea and would come back and run into you every now and then at a tavern or such, where you would give me your tales of what's going on with the tobacco plantation and your future. And I decided to ride down with you to Georgia, leaving. I guess that would be Charleston. I guess is where we would have been. And the night we were set on by the natives, I felt the presence of an immortal native, and ran into the woods to duel him, coming back injured but alive, and seeing you taking a knife to the chest and falling dead. And shortly after, I'm gasping back to life, and immortal. Sorry for all the uhs and ums.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, and as I choked breath back into my lungs, sure that I was dead, that was when I could also feel that connection, that there was some similarity between us, even though I did not know what it was. It was a thing I could feel at that moment. As I learned here that I was an immortal, as it were. And from that, the dead were shown the proper respect. Obviously, they had to have to be carted to a church so that they can get their last rites and such. And so we bore them down to the next town and got them their final rest, and assisted in burying these fellows that we traveled with for, at that point, probably a few days, week or so, and continued the journey with the belongings into the area of Florida, where, again, with knowledge from his family as a hooper, rented out and set up a small shop to increase his wealth, hoping to gain an orchard of his own. I guess. And at that time, if you don't mind me going on, at that time with this small hooper shop, there was a moment where I pulled you aside while I was working on, oh gosh, hoopers are barrels, I want to say. So I was working on a set of barrel staves, and I called you over. William, can I speak with you for a moment?
And I clap you on the shoulder. Say, "Of course, Andrew. We have a whole lot to talk about, my man."
In the in the woods on the way here. I did not want to bring it up, but I was sure I died. I felt the blade all the way deep into my heart. I know I died. But then I got back up. You seem to know something about what's going on, and despite bearing witness to that, you stood by me with this miracle when many could have seen it as a sign of the darkness. How is it that you seem to be so comfortable with my apparent rebirth?
And I would be lighting a pipe, listening to Andrew, letting him get the words out, already knowing where he's going with all this. I have kind of one eye cocked up while he's listening, and as he finishes, I'm shaking out the match and take a long puff. And as I exhale the smoke into the air around me, it's like, I wouldn't go so far to call it a miracle, but you are right. You did die. You were dead, man. And not long after, you drew breath again. And I'm sure that you felt something surge through your body. We call that the quickening. And you are now like me. We are immortal. We cannot die of natural causes any longer, nor most violent deaths. And I would like to show you what it means to be such as us.
I should say I would need proof. This sounds like the ravings of a madman. If the church could hear you speaking like this. How can you prove to me that this is no miracle? How can you prove to me that this is a miracle? You said you could show me. Show me.
Thank you. One second. Throughout your life, you've been told to get on your knee and pray to a god. And I ask you now, have you ever seen anything that would tell you there even is one?
One thing. I sat back up a few days ago, after I was dead. If that's not proof, then I don't know what is. I do not feel unclean, so it must be God that stood me back on my feet.
No, no clean or unclean yet, man. When you sat up, no man Jesus in front of you, no God opening up the skies. What stood before you was I, and a whole lot of dead men. Now you walk the earth. And in the decades that I've been doing it myself, I would be reluctant to call anything such as this a miracle quite yet.
So you say I'm to live forever?
At this point, I kind of inhale sharply. Well, not quite, you see. While it's true, you won't die a natural death or many after that, but what will end your existence quicker than anything, the only thing, is if one were to remove your head from its shoulders. That you will face the true death. And the one who took your head, if he is such as us, will feel your quickening and take upon him all your knowledge and memories and strength to himself. What I was told is this is called the Great Game. And that's a longer conversation than this night has darkness, I'm afraid.
Well, if such a time should ever come to pass, do you think if I stood before you in that moment, that you might remember at that time that we are friends?
Friends to the end. Just always remember, old Billy Boy there was always there from the beginning to the end, my friend.
I could remember that. I can remember that eye. And he kind of feels the stave again and starts dragging the blade across it.
That sounds like a pretty good place to cut the scene. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that sounds like a scene to me.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Doing awesome. I love it. Okay, so now each one of you, if you would, please reveal your objective.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry.
1 sec, I'm typing it up. If you wanted to start this one off while I'm sending my objective over, I am cool with that.
Hey, Jamming, are you wanting us to announce it or type it?
Yep, tell it to the whole world from the mountaintop.
Okay, William's objective there, upon seeing Andrew become an immortal, was to make him feel indebted to my generosity.
Do you think that you accomplished this?
As far as I can tell.
I think I would say you did. I would say you did.
I would certainly agree. So,
awesome.
Jason, go ahead and mark or set aside 1 die for obtaining the objective for Choose Your Own. And yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I picked convince the rival to agree to do something for me in the future. And the agreement of, in that final moment, if you would remember that we were friends, I was hoping that would feel like it applied for that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I agree. Excellent. Okay, so, Joe, that will earn you 2 dice. These are D6. That makes a difference.
Right. I have Will Wheaton disease. My dice always roll low when they're supposed to roll high.
Excellent. Excellent.
Fantastic. This will be fun. You guys are killing this. This is fantastic. Okay. Let's quit gushing. All right, so you guys have that recorded, and we are ready for scene number 2. Scene number 2 is Strength in Numbers. Immortal duels are always one-on-one. Interference is forbidden, even on behalf of a friend or lover. But the quickening leaves an immortal weak and nearly defenseless. For this reason, many travel together in pairs, so that should one of them fall to a challenger, the second can take immediate revenge. This is usually enough to discourage most immortals from issuing challenges. For a time, you swore your swords to one another, to take revenge on any challenger that may succeed where your friend failed. In this scene, you each should establish the trust that your current relationship is built upon. The floor is yours.
You want to start this one off, Jason?
Yeah, I'll take the helm on this one. I will say that I stayed with Andrew through several seasons while he established an orchard and turned it into a thriving business, which I imagine I may have became a silent partner in. And lately, there have been a lot of raids going on along the shores of Georgia and Florida, and especially the Caribbean. And I believe the scene is going to start off on the night that this orchard suffers the same fate. Raiders rode ashore somewhere in the dark of night and set upon our laborers, slaughtering them in their sleep and setting fire to anything that'll burn.
All right. As somebody in the night notices the fires, there's screaming and shouting, and Andrew bolts up in bed at the taken wife, who is pregnant with child, and he immediately, as per the time period, he grabs a musket from his from a stand there by the bed and begins shakily kind of filling it, not knowing exactly what's going on at the moment, and goes running down out of the home and sees that there's a fire, and so puts the musket down just inside the door and runs to the porch where there's a small bell that hangs. It's normally used for parcel post or others to announce their arrival, and he just starts ringing this thing like all hell is broken loose, yelling out "fire" into the night to rouse as many people that are left, still not knowing that that there are raiders ransacking and burning through the laborers' quarters.
All right. And from there, you would feel the familiar sensation of knowing that William was close. You sense each other's quickenings, as it were. And as I run up to you, a bloody hatchet in hand and a still smoking pistol in the other, I point to the fields where a lot of the trees are on fire as well. And at that moment, we both feel a separate quickening. A third immortal is here and steps out of the shadows with some crew member henchmen seeking to end our days. And I think it's where we'll start. And sensing it and looking around the group, I'm going to say he has maybe 5 henchmen with him, all scarred, all fairly seasoned seamen. And I step forward, recognizing the immortal among the group. And as I do so, I draw my blade. I am William McCullen, and if you seek violence here, I'll damn sure end it.
And feeling this rush of another immortal, and also from the stories he has heard, Andrew at first feels a touch of fear And shakily reaches back and grabs the musket, brings it barrel to, and pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. And then his senses come to him as he realizes he never actually finished loading the weapon. So he starts shakily trying to do that as the Immortal and his thugs close in on us. William, what the hell is going on? I can feel him. Hands shaking, and he finally gets that musket ball in and starts ramming the rod down into the muzzle-loading black powder rifle. Touches a little bit into the flint tray or into the fire pan, locks it up, and pop, and fires a shot into one of the thugs.
All right. Yeah. William hears Andrew scream, asking what's going on, and charged pistol at one of the charging raiders, hitting him in the head, dropping him. I raise my sword up, and Andrew said, "Just keep your head," and rush forward, engaging in more. I'm guessing two of the henchmen and the Immortal. Let's give this guy a name. Who do you think this guy is? How old do you think he is? I'm thinking this guy thinks that he can take the both of us, so he's probably fairly powerful, probably fairly old.
Yeah, at least a few hundred, I would say. Age-wise.
Sounds good. All right, I'll...
His name was Louis, or Louis now, but he was Louis. He was a Frenchman originally.
If you guys would like, I could play Louis.
That would be magnificent, sir.
Yeah, okay. So Louis stands behind, in front of this flaming orchard. He's kind of backlit as he kind of steps forward. His hair is long but drawn back, and he has very, very nice pressed, embroidered clothing with way more buttons and buckles than it has any business to have. And he pulls an incredibly fancy-looking sword that kind of reflects the firelight in the steel of its blade. And he says, "You all will die here tonight. There is nothing you can do about it."
I believe that's where you were wrong, sir. And Andrew comes swinging in with the empty musket, using it as a club. Swings in and deftly, Louis flicks with a flick of the wrist on his with his blade, disarms him completely with this sight, which throws Andrew off his feet a little bit, and sends him cascading down the steps off of the porch.
Oh no. Yeah, I can almost hear the haughty chuckle coming from Louis. I kind of raise my cutlass and kind of tip my hat with it and almost curtsy as I'd launch into combat with him. I'm no novice with a blade myself, having survived some of the roughest ports in all the Caribbean in my years. Fought some pretty rough characters throughout the years, but quickly start to realize that if this was one-on-one on either side, Louis would dispatch me fairly quickly. And I start to work my way to put some of his henchmen into goading them into attacking me as well, so that I might be able to kind of throw them in front of his blade and maybe kill two birds with one stone, as it were. Shooting back on the ground, not too wounded except maybe his pride.
All right. And Andrew, of course, once reaching the bottom of the steps, turns around and runs back into the home to retrieve the sword, which has been hanging above the mantle, as it was more of an honor piece, the last thing left of family from generations ago, and kind of unwieldily holding the thing. Some of the little things that his father had shown him when he was younger kind of come back a little bit, and he rushes back outside to stand side by side with William, kind of to do the best that he can, for he is not trained really in the use of a blade, other than a few couple things. So he was mainly aiming to fight the thugs as best he can.
All right. With this, I position myself with my back to Anders, and with every thrust, I'm hollering back almost orders at Ander. Lightly with your wrist now. Low. Go now. And as I'm fighting off two of the henchmen, seeing Louis prowling like a cat on the porch, waiting for his opening to attack and catch either one of us off guard. Andrew would perhaps clumsily lunge forward as a raider slices into your thigh. Not too deep, but definitely causing a limp from that side. I would hear you yell and look back, distracted for but a moment.
All right, and yeah, Andrew cries out, and the thug that had just cut him leans forward, kind of feeling like he has the advantage, and Andrew shakily just throws all his weight into one last swing and cuts the man down. And then he feels this rush of courage as he gets perhaps a little too cocky in this one attack, and he presses forward and gets cut down by two of the thugs, stabbed and gutted, and drops to the ground as the thugs whirl, laughing, thinking they've got advantage of you or over you. And then slowly, you can't kill me like that. Andrew starts climbing back to his feet as two of the thugs that had just killed him turn and see this and break and begin running away from the fight. And Andrew goes chasing after the two of them, we'll say. Leaving you alone on the porch.
Leaving me with Louis. Here we go. And I see you run off. And I handle him now! And locking eyes on to Louis, tightening my grip on my cutlass, digging my heel, and awaiting Louis's first move.
He kind of falls into almost like a casual fencing guard, and he says, "This is why we in Paris keep the dogs on leashes, to prevent them from running away." And then he lunges forward at the distraction.
And his lunge, I expected it and prepared to block it. What I did not expect was this man's sheer strength with that kind. And quickly, he's on the ground onto William, and we are crossing blades with every breath and every beat of our hearts. Louis is toying with me. And I realize that this may be the best chance that I have, is his cockiness. So I try to position Louis into making some kind of a mistake, which he eventually does, leaving an open just enough to where my blade enters his forearm between the two bones, wounding his pride and ruining his jacket. I hear him hiss as he pulls back, and I laugh between gasping breaths. It's always the same with you noble types. Now have a taste of this, and lunge forward again. This time to my dire detriment. I imagine Louis would catch William square in the gut with his blade, pulling me close and whispering something into my ear. Something along the lines of now it ends. My self-belief, I believe I'm about to die. And I hear a crack, which I hear a moment to be the blade coming down across my neck, and this is it. This is where I die. But Louis staggers back. Go ahead, Joe.
Yep, I was just about to jump in. I was like, and Andrew, who had heard the call previously about not going, turned around to see this great duel unfolding, and so he rushes around the side of the house to enter another angle of the porch, and comes creeping up behind Louis, and still not too familiar with the sword, kind of comes in as if he was hacking a trail with a machete, and maybe catches Louis in part of the back, though not deep enough to kill, quotes, but definitely to let him know I am here. And he cries out, "Away from him!" with this chop.
And Louis calls back, "You dishonorable dogs! It is one on time! Oh, this ganging up on me. It is beneath you." And he kind of looks down at you, and he says, "William, I expected better from you."
And William would spit some blood onto Louis's boot. "And that was your mistake, sir. think about at that time, some of the laborers come into view, and line up and draw fire onto Andrew, or not Andrew, I'm sorry, onto Louis, in an effort that's going on here, but pegging him with several musket rounds.
And Andrew will wave them off. Enough! And he turns, and the laborers cease fire, and he looks at him, and he looks over at Louis, and he says, "You have walked your way onto my land, into my home, and you have burned and pillaged, and you have murdered the people that work for me. And you dare to talk to me about honor when you did this in the middle of the night while people were sleeping. You dare to confound my honor with your dishonorable deeds." And he takes a swing at Louis, or at Louis, in the attempt for a beheading.
I don't know how Jeremy feels about it, but I think this would be a really fitting you to feel your first quickening as the head lobs off his arrogant shoulders. His body falls and then starts to rise up as thunder rolls across the night sky. You look up and see the clouds rolling in from the sea itself. Your men stand there, not sure of what they're seeing. The energy courses through your being. You feel almost his personality. Everything that Louis knew, everything that Louis loved, is becoming part of your being. And as this sensation ends, you see me standing there, nodding in approval, but your men whispering amongst themselves, "Devil, witchcraft. It's not natural." And shoulders and yell at you, we must go, run, and drag you, probably screaming from your livelihood, into the fiery orchard itself.
And that was the first time had to leave a life behind.
Excellent. And yeah, I think just because I can't help myself, I think as you're led away, like the last thing you see is like a burning doll lying on the ground. At least we do as the audience. Awesome. Okay, man, you guys are nailing this. All right, let's go over the objectives that you guys had for the scenes, whether or not you achieved those.
For sure. I started off the scene, so Joe, why don't you go into the objectives first?
All right. For objective, I had let your rival win a contest between you. And I did not actually, although the rival did win a contest, it was not by me letting him do so. It was an inexperience in the character with the sword fighting. So I did not actually achieve that goal. Sadly.
Right. And Jason.
My goal was to get Andrew to abandon some held deer and I can't imagine much would mean more at the time than the orchard itself. And while I may not have had the direct influence on you to leave, but I did drag you. So I think I succeeded.
I think that works.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Okay, so Jason, you are going to earn 4 dice for that. So that is 4 additional dice.
All right.
I think I've got 6 for you now, Jason. That's awesome. And okay.
No, I only earned 1 from that first round, so I'm at 5.
There you go. Yep. I goofed it. Okay, cool. And Joe, you did not achieve your objective, so what happens is you earn a number of hatred dice equal to the number that your rival earned. So you just earned 4 hatred dice.
Oh, okay. Oh, man.
The idea is that this comes from something that built out of the scene. So this would likely be, the seeds of something bad is the fact that he took you away from this life. And at the very, very end,
Oh, totally.
if you don't end up with enough that you feel dice, then you can use your hatred as kind of a modifier. We'll get there. Okay. So that was the second scene. And we're on to the third.
Could I take 2 minutes and tuck my son into bed real quick?
Absolutely. Please do so.
I will be right back.
Sounds fantastic. Kissing for us. Okay, well, Jason goes to be a good father. We're going to hang out just a bit. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this evening. We've had a very steady stream of people, which excites me to no end. Looks like we've got quite a few people. Looks like Dave just showed up. Looks like Karen and Tamiko are here. Looks like Lloyd is here. We got Josh, Kevin. If I'm forgetting you, please don't hurt me. There's the other Jeremy. Howdy, everybody.
Hi, folks. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am. This is pretty damn awesome.
You guys are you're killing it. It's going so much better than I even anticipated it would. Can't wait to get to the end and find out what happens. Excited. It's like watching a TV show.
I know, right? I don't even know what's going on until it's there. Until it's already happening. This is great.
Yeah. I love games like this where the system is just like people talk about other game systems being narrative based, and I can't usually agree unless it's a game like this. I'm like, no, this is a narrative based game.
Yep. This is definitely, I would call this a narrative based game. This is going great.
The dice are so light in this game.
And totally easy to get the hang of it. Anybody watching? This is the first time I ever played the system. It's awesome. Because it's based on a single moment, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so all that I know about it is just kind of what I've read on the internet, but there's a lot of drama that surrounds it, apparently. A single moment was made by a guy named Tobie Abad, and then he kind of got talked into somebody helping him design the Reflections game. And they made a game that was pretty close to it, like probably a little close to really have published it separately and all that kind of stuff. So, but the Reflection book I have, I don't have a single moment. So I read Reflections and just gave credit as well to Single Moment because they're both awesome. But yeah, this game is very, very similar to games like Dread and Fiasco, things like that, where you come with usually very little prepared, and it ends up still being very, very just really deep. The relationships, the characters.
I am back. I appreciate that.
Right. So, if you guys are ready, we will. The bond is.
I don't know.
Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
I don't know what was going on. It sounded like you were underwater there for a minute.
Uh-oh.
It may have been on my end.
Did you hear me okay, Joseph?
I can hear you right now. Okay. There was a moment it did sound a little weird.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. No worries. We're good.
So we're ready to go back into it if you guys are. And
yeah,
the scene
absolutely.
Is called A Bond. The Bond is Broken. So the players describe the moment when this conflict first began to manifest in earnest. This could be where one of you directly betrayed the other. Perhaps it was driven by jealousy or mistrust. Perhaps it was born simply out of a misunderstanding. Pay special attention to the circumstances leading up to the situation. Could there have been another choice? If yes, explore what that choice could have been. If there was no other choice, why is it that neither of you can now let it go? Please send me your objectives, if you would. And then whenever you are ready.
All right. I am set. Do you want to start this one off, Jason, or do you want me to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, I took first last round. So yeah, go ahead this time.
Okay. All right. So I think this moment happened maybe 50 years later, we'll say. And we are actually in New Orleans and have been there for some time. Down Louisiana, or New Orleans, I believe they call it. And it is, of course, the night of the Mardi Gras, or the week, or I haven't actually been there. But however long it takes place, it is in the middle of it. There's horns and ripping off some funky jazz on every street corner. There are parades through the middle of the street, beads being flung everywhere, giant masks marching around. It is a time of celebration. You can smell the food roasting, the heavy Creole spicing lifting up into the streets, mixed with spilled beer, perhaps even spilled blood, the sweat of people dancing. It is a hell of a night as the sun sets over the French Quarter here. And we find ourselves standing out on a balcony, overlooking this scene deep in the French Quarter. In fact, we've owned this hotel now for 10 years, listening to the stories of people coming and going, and more or less kind of robbing these people with our exorbitant prices and selling possibly watered down liquor and different meats being sold off as higher quality meats, say dog for beef kinds of things. And so we're up on this balcony looking over everything, and out of the blue, Andrew hadn't brought it up in quite some time, but out of the blue, as he's staring into some of the torchlight and candles burning in different windows, he kind of has a flash of memory and looks up and says, Did you call Lewis to my farm? I keep reliving that night, and my wife and we're just upstairs. I don't know if you I don't know if you purposely dragged me away or exactly what happened during the quickening, but something tells me that perhaps there was time to save them before we ran off into the night with the laborers shouting at us. I can't shake this feeling. It has been gnawing at me for decades now. I need to hear it from you. I need to hear some truth on this. Did you drag me away? Was there still time to save them? I don't remember seeing the house burning at first. There was so much fire and so much confusion that night. I need to know now.
William sits along an ottoman on the porch here. A Creole girl, shoulders exposed, had been laughing with me as we're into our third bottle of red. Very drunkenly, I tap and stand her up. I say, I do believe you need to excuse me. Oh, my partner has some business he would like to discuss with me. Run along now. And I slap her on the ass and she skimpers off into the room. At which point I drop the jovial dude that I was showing and stare silently at him for a good few moments. Gonna flinch first. I want to see if he's gonna break the silence or if I am. But my impatience gets the better of me, and I exhale. So he's gonna come to the. You have been conjuring up these demons of the past for 10 years, and now you lay the blame solely at my feet. Is this what I am to understand, Andrew?
Never even went upstairs to check.
You do realize they believe we were demons, right? The first night that you joined this immortality you have been given, I had told you that you've walked all your life and never saw anything that would even remotely has not convinced these people. They are convinced for centuries by these people that anything out of the slightest ordinary is demonic in nature. And what do you think they thought to see a dead man rise up from the ground and impose his power upon you? What do you think they thought, Andrew?
What do you think they did to my wife if she was still alive? If they found her? That was my child. If it's like you say, that they all thought I was a demon, what did that mean for her and them? Either way, lived or died, fire or torture. This is what you've laid at my feet.
At this, William just is uncontrollably laughing. I have leaned forward and planted my drunken head into my hands, and I am howling with laughter. And I wipe tears from my face. I had never told Andrew that Immortals cannot father children. And what makes you think that child was yours?
She was my wife. That's what makes me think the child was mine. What other reason could there be?
Andrew, my poor naive boy, don't you understand? We cannot, Immortals cannot beget. If she was indeed pregnant, sir, it was loins. I promise you that. And I'm sorry if this directs you a little too much. I really think that Andrew would just deck the fuck out of William right now.
Yeah, Andrew, without thinking, just swings, just blind swing. He's hearing this, and he at first knows it to be a lie, but deeper inside himself, he has an understanding that perhaps it is true. Some memory lingering from Lewis when he was killed, and the knowledge that he had gained from him, and he knows it to be true. But still, he swings. The rage just takes him over completely. And after he decks William, he turns back and slaps the bottle of wine off the table and screams loud into the night, further being angered when people in the streets cheer back in response, thinking that it's some great game in this night. And he turns back with water already spilling from his eyes, as the rest of the things that have been just held up inside him, and the anger and the rage still taking him, but knowing that he can't hurt his friend physically, he yells out, "Lewis came for you no matter what. He was a pirate. You were a pirate. You have always depended on my business sense and my know-how. You have never been able to make anything of yourself or anything of your life without me. If it weren't for me, you would have been stuck on some ship somewhere, stinking up with the rest of those foul folk, port to port with no real sense of life whatsoever. You need me. You have always needed me. And if it weren't for my farm, my orchard, my cooper shop way back when, and my hotel now, where would you be but at the bottom of some bottle in a wharf?" And he kind of seems to breathe a little easier as these things come out. Whether or not he meant them to begin with, they're said, and it seems like he is a touch lighter at the time, and turns and just puts his hands on the railing and looks back at the street, unable to look at William.
And William had sat there, planted on his ass, being berated by Andrew this whole time. And as Andrew turns his gaze into the cheering crowd below, in moments realizing that there was a citywide party going on outside of his broodiness, William stands up, wipes some blood off his lip, may have been knocked loose, wipes it on his shirt, and claps Andrew on his shoulder. "I do hope you feel better. You see, are different. You are so convinced of your own worth and your own goodness that you don't see beyond yourself to understand that I had you, Andrew. Where would I be if I didn't run across you? My boy, I would be in someone else's company, leeching off them to see myself through the centuries. And why? Because it is fun. You never were up to me. You never were of my caliber. You pray it won't be on holy ground." And I will walk off the balcony and close the door to the hotel suite behind me and wander into the night.
Wow.
Yeah. Holy shit.
That was tense, man. That was awesome.
That was, man. That was really good.
Yeah, this is. I'm riveted. All right, let's deal with the boring shit. Your objectives, so we can get back to what's going on. whichever you would like to go first.
Okay, I'll go first this time. My goal this time, Joe, was to convince Andrew how fundamentally different he is from William. And I did lay it out, although I don't know how well I convinced him. That I guess I would have to lay at your feet.
I was convinced. I was convinced as a yes.
Excellent.
Conv-
Is he going robotic for anybody else?
Yeah, it's me too. You're breaking up real bad now.
Joseph,
to express. Oh, oops, sorry.
you're breaking up real bad. Try saying something.
My bad. I went still breaks. Am I still robotic?
Yeah.
It's still a little bit, but not as bad. I can at least understand you now. I was getting like every other syllable there for a minute.
Let's have. No, you're good. Let's have Jason. Or did she? Oh, you already went. That was tech issues. Okay. So, Jason, you said yours objective was to show or to convince your rival to show that they are fundamentally different from you. Yeah, I think so. I think you did achieve that. It felt that way, especially at the very, very end there. So that will give you, Jason, 2 additional dice. I think that puts you at 7.
Yeah, that brings me to 7.
Excellent. Cool. And then Joseph.
All right.
Test. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Test. Am I sounding right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you sound great.
Technical issues. Yep. All right. Yeah. So my goal, I was trying to convince William to in having met me, and I think that's one that I would actually have to defer to you to see if you were expressing that regret in having met.
At the very least, I regret how much time I actually wasted on you. So, yeah, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, I would have to agree. So that will get you 3.
Which should total me at 5.
5 and then 4 hatred dice. Cool. Okay. We're just a little bit over halfway. No. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're right at halfway. So I'm going to take a short break, 5, maybe 10 minutes. Go to the bathroom, refill your drinks, kiss your spouses, smoke them if you got them, all that business, and we will be right back. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this evening. Stick around.
Rock on. Be right back.
Excellent. Be right back.
All right. I'm back. Hello, everyone. Thank you very, very much for tuning in this evening. This game is so awesome. You guys are doing so good. Oh, man. I'm excited. So, we are, like I said, about halfway through. We should have 2 more scenes. 2 more scenes, and then the final duel. One of our heroes this evening will not survive. I can't stand not knowing which one. Okay. Hopefully everybody's having a good weekend. Hopefully the time change, for those of you who observe it, hasn't been too rough. It is November. We're 4 days into November. It's ridiculous.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, sorry I'm not on camera. My webcam kind of shit the bed on me and wouldn't keep focus. So until I get another one, I'm just audio.
No, that's not a problem. I'm going to refill my drink. I just realized it is empty. So entertain the people if you would.
All right. Hello, my
It's
son.
intermission. Here we go. Intermission. What a show.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Oh, that's a good one. Man, this is going pretty awesome so far. I am enjoying it.
Yeah, man. When I first saw Jeremy and Eli play the samurai version of this, the true game of this, I was pretty intrigued by it. I dig like old samurai movies, all the old black and white ones, where everything was almost Dragon Ball Z and leading up to the actual fight and all the campiness of it. I was a big fan of those. So this is kind of right up my alley as far as fun goes.
Right, I definitely agree with that. I was a fan more of the Kurosawa deals. I mean, what was it like Yojimbo, Senjiro? I mean, as far as like the samurai deal goes, but like those moments, like this, it's that build up. It's all those things that happen while they're freeze frame and staring across each other at the battlefield.
Yes,
this is awesome.
Yeah, I am giddier than a schoolgirl in the presence of AC Slater. I'll let all of you younger people go check out who AC Slater is.
Yeah, there's only a certain age group that will get that reference, sir.
Yep.
Well, for those of you who do, you're welcome. Oh, shit. Okay. This is so good. All right, you guys ready to press on?
Yes.
Good deal. All right. The next scene that we have is It Doesn't Have to Be This Way. There was a moment when forgiveness was an option, when one approached the other in an attempt to mend old wounds. Who sought this meeting? What event, historical or otherwise, brought it about? In this scene, you have been brought back together on friendly terms, and you remember better times. This is an attempt at making peace, though the sting of the past is still there. Through the scene, it should become apparent that things simply cannot be how they once were. You don't yet know when the time will come, but eventually this relationship will end in the only way it can for an immortal. What happens during this meeting to bring that conclusion even closer? Once you guys have chosen your objectives, please shoot them over to me, and then you may begin the scene when you are ready. I wish I had popcorn.
I believe if you want to keep going in that pattern, I believe it's your start there for us, Jason, to determine where we hold this one.
All right. Kind of true to word. I would say this scene is going to pick up. What is a famous church in Charleston, South Carolina? Anyway, we're going to be on holy ground and where it all began in Charleston, South Carolina. Perhaps it was an accidental meeting. Perhaps William's kind of on the run from somebody and feeling the presence of an immortal, even a familiar one, had me back into holy ground just to ensure that I walked out of here alive.
So yeah, indeed, I was running from, or on the run from, a much more powerful immortal than myself, and that's when I went through certain channels to find and locate you, to once again kind of ask for your aid, since I have not crossed paths with another immortal since that last moment, before we split and everything. So just some of that that old fear that first touched him, from that quickening moment, and feeling just the raw power from this guy. I had called you and agreed to meet in this church. So I walked through the door. No, of course, the sword is hidden under a long wool coat. Just, even though it is holy ground, he is on the run, and Word's head is on the line field. So he comes walking as the fading light of myriad of colors through the stained glass crosses, and it's been done a while back already. He walks in wood and kind of moving in the colored light, and looks across the room and sees William up in the front, just rising from lighting some candles at the front of the church. And breaking the silence, Andrew calls out, "I didn't know if you would come."
What year would this be? I'm wanting to say this is closer to modern times. I want to say that the great game is kind of circling around towards the end now, and maybe this guy you're on the run from is one of the last, and we all kind of feel that. So I don't know, mid-90s to go with the Slater reference. All right. You would see Andrew rise up, a long pea coat, down halfway past his calves. I would look up and kind of chuckle. Do you think they actually believe this? Puffs of smoke carrying your wishes into the air, making your day or lives a little bit better with each begging tone. What do you want, Andrew?
There was a time, he kind of lent expensive mohair wool coat. Actually, I realized mohair is not wool. Apologies. Off his expensive mohair coat, and kind of motions up to the candles and says, "There's a time I would have believed that actually meant something, but these hundreds of years have showed me that there is no God. But religion isn't why I've asked you here. I'm being hunted, old friend. I don't even know if we are friends anymore. It's been so long. But once upon a time, you were someone I could count on. And in this time of need, as I can feel this news, it seems, growing, I need your help. There's no other way to say it. And I'd rather not mince words and play at different emotions that we once may have had in the time that we've known each other. I'm just flat out saying it. I need your help. That's why I've called you here.
William would turn around and face Andrew for the first time in this meeting. And in the light of the stained glass window, you would see Andrew's vicious scar that had left one of his eyes completely gone and just destroyed. And more out of intimidation than anything else. He refuses to wear any kind of a glass eye or anything, so it's just a hollow blackness you see in his eye socket. That was always the problem, Andrew. You always needed me. Don't you understand that? And here we are, what? 2 whole centuries since you laid your hands upon my jaw and severed whatever we had for that brief period of time. And now I know you feel this just as well as I do. The great game is coming to its end. Andrew, you know this. There can be only one. And I aim to be me. Old friend.
Well, if it comes down to that, that will be a hell of a thing, won't it? And he kind of crosses his leg, sits down on the pew and crosses his leg, removing the sword belt, kind of just setting it down on the table, on the bench beside him. There's kind of a shimmer off the silk pants he's wearing of a quite expensive suit. His business sense has been doing quite well for him, and he kind of leans back and rubs his temples. Says, "I'm not exactly here to talk about the end. I'm here to talk about the now. Maybe in some way, I did need you at one point, and perhaps that time has come again. But maybe it's not per se you that I need. Maybe it's just you're the only person on somewhat of a friendly term with me that can understand the situation. Nobody else knows the feeling, the weight of all of the. There's no therapist I can go and talk to about this shit, man. And now somebody is gunning for my head.
Have you
all the money that I've accrued. I knew it was coming. I've been trying to deny this aspect.
Tell me, Andrew,
why would I?
Have you even raised your blade in defense of your life since parting ways?
I've had lawyers do it for me.
I always knew you a fool, Andrew. I never took you as a coward.
Coward? Coward? If you could see some of the business deals that I've made, some of the threats that have been made against my life for the work that I've been doing. Am I even talking to you about this for? You've probably spent your life as a homeless man. But this is touching away from from the reasons that none of that is important. It's inconsequential. I just need to know and count on you. Or if I am to face this man on my own. I called you because I wanted to reconcile, if even for a moment. Call me a sentimental old bastard, but perhaps it's just because I miss having a friend. I've been a wolf with a target on my back in a den full of wolves. Granted, they weren't of the immortal variety, but it's a stress all the same.
And putting one foot up on a pew and resting my forearms on that raised knee, I lean forward and tell me, who's the big bad swordman coming for your head today? Who is this big threat that you felt the need after all this time to reach out to me?
To be honest, name, I have sent everything under my bankroll that I could throw at it to find out. It's a mystery. None of these people have been able to find him. He's come close to me once. I know he is tall. He is far taller than you or I. Gave him the slip. Downtown Chicago. It was easy to get lost there on the way. He may be coming even now. I am sadly.
I wouldn't.
What you said there. Sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead, Joe. What was the last thing?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't realize I dropped or something. No, the last thing he had said, Emers, but you hear me okay?
I mean, you're a little choppy, but I heard you. You said the last. It's all come across as rumors. Cool. I would straighten myself up, kind of straighten my jacket up, my coat up over my shoulders, shake my head, and all this wealth that you've accumulated over all these years, and you can't even find a single man. What good has it done you? Except put that target on your back. You make assumptions of me, Andrew, but it took you a hell of a long time to find me.
But I found you.
I allowed you to find me. I wanted to see what the rich man had for me after all these years. And now I see. You just want me to fight your battles. No, Andrew, I will not. I won't do this for you. There will be no forgiveness. There is nothing. There is only the game. And if you walk away from here taking anything with you, Andrew, in the end, it's going to be you or me.
It seems I have my answer. Then there's something at least you should take away from this. I may have unfairly blamed you for the incident all those years back. At least so, let me apologize for the pain to your ego, the pain to your soul, and to the nick upon your jaw. Perhaps when it comes to it, it might not be me at all that stands before you. Perhaps it might be this gentleman, and maybe then you'll learn his name. It was at least good to see you before whatever happens, happens. And he grabs up his sword and puts the belt on and turns to extend his hand.
I would turn my back on you and walk to the candles. I would pick one up from the altar and blow it out and point to the smoke. Send your forgiveness with this. And throw the candle on the ground and walk towards the side exit. And I think that's as good a place as any.
Yeah, I think that's a good scene. Oh my god. Guys. This is just... Ugh. Okay. So go ahead and reveal what your objectives were, and we'll discuss all of that business before moving one step closer to the end.
Go ahead, Jim.
All right. So my objective was to convince my, or to get my rival to say something admirable about me. I'm going to say that was a negatory there, Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I don't think that any kind words.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, I hate to agree with that assessment, but I don't think William finds any value left in Andrew.
There wasn't a lot of love there. That's for sure.
That's two more to the hatred side, yeah?
We have to wait and find out whether or not Jason achieved his. Oh. It's based off of whether or not he got his.
Oh, right. Okay. Gotcha.
Mine, I made my own objective to make sure that you understood that there will be no forgiveness and only one of us will walk away from this. I think that was pretty clearly administered.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Being my own objective, that would just be one die added to the pool.
Which brings you to 8. And then, so what that will do, Joe, is that gives you 1 hatred die because he earned 1. So that puts you at 5 and 5, yes?
Yep, that's correct. That's what I got.
Perfect. Cool.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready. Are you ready? All right. The last scene before the final moment. Who wants to live forever? The final conflict emerges, and the rivalry boils over. Memories of the past mean nothing. The hope of peace is gone, and the only possible conclusion can be a final death. No longer friends or allies, you now stand across from an enemy. Where does the duel take place? Does it have special meaning to either of you? When setting this scene, you should reference the prologue of the story, as it should correspond with the "We Stand Upon" declaration. This setting should be inspired by the events that occurred in the last 4 scenes, which I think you guys have down handily. All of the emotion, the passion, and hatred from the entire story culminates here. All key components should come together to form this scene. This is it. After the last sword strike, you have reached the end of the game. It seems like you have probably already sent your objectives. I will verify that while you guys get us started.
Ooh, boy.
All right, Andrew. Get this started, Joe.
All right. So, We find ourselves in southern Florida, outside of Miami. Swampy shores of part of the wetlands, a wildlife preserve that Andrew had just funded to make it a protected area. And there was a commemoration ceremony that had taken place earlier in the day. Ribbons were cut, such things. Thanks were given publicly to the board and to the press that was watching. And as Andrew's quite stirring speech that one of the speechwriters had written for him, he noticed standing in the audience, him, but McCullough kind of pacing along back, not making a big display, keeping himself very, very, and
yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, we lost you right about the fact that you had a speechwriter.
Shit. Oh shit! My bad.
No,
crap.
Cool.
I don't know what is going on with my internet.
It happens all the time in these games, man. I hate to have to ask you to repeat.
Sounding now. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Okay. It sounds good to me.
Am I good? Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So I a speech that was prepared by a speechwriter, and out in the crowd, amidst all the reporters and everything, pacing along the back and being, I could see William now one-eyed, pacing and feeling that the time was drawing. It was upon us. The speech, he just politely motioned off to the side, where the two of them made their way through the wetlands, away from the small stage that was set, and there they find themselves along these wet, muddy banks. And he turns and finally looks at him and says, "It's come to this, has it? I don't know if there's any others left, but I know there's you, and I know there's me. I'm still here, and I expect to be here by the time the sun sets. My name is Andrew Hooper, sir, and I am here for your head."
William walks up. He looks better than you've seen him, and the last time you saw him. He's has business pants on, a clean white shirt with gray suspenders over his shoulders. His sleeves are rolled up. His cutlass is prominently displayed at his hip. Its jewels glimmer in the sunlight. He looks at you and smiles, his dark, dead eye staring into you. "I see you finally killed your big bad wolf, Mr. Hooper. And now you stand with all the confidence of Florida behind you. Well, sir, I am William McCullough, and I have come for your head." And I start to walk his way, hand on the hilt of my sword, my right hand over it. It's not even my drawing hand. I come walking confidently directly at you.
All right, and Andrew holds his ground, lightly shifting from foot to foot, disregarding the amount of mud that has spilled over and stained the bottom of his silk business slacks, and the high polished black wingtips, now just completely ruined by the filth. But he stands his ground and pulls the coat back, revealing the that same basket hilt, the blue still bright and vibrant, the threads of the tassels still as crisp and fresh as the day the sword was given to him 300 years ago at this point. And he gently reaches down with a thumb, removes the coat completely, and just lets it drape into the mud. And looks up and says, "I don't know if I would have called him a big bad wolf, for if my life was a fairy tale, you're the wolf that has plagued it." Are you afraid to get this happening? You step forward, but I think you're relying more on your mystique and the bullying that you have been so fond of. I think you'll find I'm not the cow you once used to think I was.
And smiling, I close the distance as you taunt me and say, "Only wish to return a favor," and plant my fist squarely into your jaw, knocking you to your knee into the sand.
Andrew rubs his jaw, spits out a little bit of blood, and turns and looks up and says, "Yeah, I deserve that." Seems a touch different today as he slowly climbs to his feet, realizing that it was more an insult than an actual beginning of a fight. I realize that perhaps you misunderstand. I had not come to throw knuckles, sir. I came to cut down the Black Eye, McCullen, scourge of the seas.
And William can take no more. Looking to the sky, he moves with lightning speed as I draw my cutlass and slash at waist high to push you back and assume my fighting stance. But then come on, my boy. Let's do this.
All right. And as the slash comes forward, he has learned some proficiency with a blade, as his quick draw and parry with the half-sheathed sword knocks the blade off, but he takes a few steps back to fully draw his basket-hilted backsword.
As you do so, we move to the final moment. Gentlemen, this has been fantastic. Both of you, if you would please reveal your objective, and then we will finish this game.
Jason, do you want to jump that one first, or should I just go ahead and do it before I'm a robot?
I was talking, not realizing that I was muted. I realized that you and I probably have the same objective of trying to get the other one to draw first. I lost that battle.
I was starting to think the same thing. I was getting ready to draw. I was like, oh, I think we're at an impasse.
You sent that to me. I was like, ooh, this is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, well, you know, even after all these centuries, William's not a patient man and a little too proud for his own good.
That's exactly why I picked this goal.
Okay, what that means then is that, Joe, you will earn 2 dice, which puts you at 7. And Jason, you will earn your first 2 hatred dice.
All right.
I think that puts you at 8 and 2, and Joseph, you're at 7 and 5.
Oof.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
So, before the final moment, let's see here. Paper. Both players are going to choose to either harness or release their hatred. They recount the prologue, score dice, and roll to win the duel as described in the text. No ties can occur in this setting. If the dice result is a tie, the duel continues and the dice are rolled again. Repeat this until there is a winner.
I'll go ahead and say William is going to unleash his hatred.
He's going to use it.
Yes, use it.
Okay.
So I would roll the 2 hatred dice that I have.
One moment.
Okay.
So, and I'll go over this before we kind of decide whether or not you want to, just in case you change your mind.
Okay.
The last thing to occur before the final duel is each player must decide if they want to harness or release their anger. If a player decides to harness their hatred, they will use both dice pools for the final duel as described in the previous section. If a player decides to release their anger, they will let go of past emotions and enter the final duel with a calm spirit. A player that releases their hatred dice will discard all of their dice, their hatred dice rather, and roll only their standard dice for the final strike. But this roll will determine who lives and dies at the very end. The dice represents the skills and victories the character has built during their lifetime. Skills they now bring into this duel. The hatred represents the raw emotion left over from your rival's actions that can no longer go unchallenged. They're both represented by D6s, as we stated earlier, and each of you needs to set aside a number of D6s equal to your dice, and then equal to your hatred dice. These pools of dice should remain separate. When it comes time to make the final roll to determine the duel, both of you will roll your pool of dice, not your hatred dice yet. And then you're going to count only the highest number rolled and how many times that number was rolled.
Ooh.
Whoever rolls the highest number is going to win the duel. If the highest number from both players is the same, the player who rolled that number the most times wins. But hatred dice do figure into this. After the dice have been rolled, you should not move or adjust the numbers, and the results could change because of this if they are harnessing your hatred. You roll your hatred dice after this initial roll, and it will be used to modify the results. So you roll your pool of hatred dice, and they will get added together with your standard dice to give you the final result. However, if you harness hatred, you will discard any normal dice that show a number higher than your highest hatred die. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I have some examples if it doesn't, so don't feel bad because confusing to me at first too.
So just to reiterate, I have 2 hatred dice. I want to harness it, use it, right? Mm-hmm. So I would roll my 8 dice first.
Yes.
Count up the highest that appears the most, and then roll my hatred dice. If the highest hatred dice is under the highest regular dice, I discard that higher dice.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Your hatred dice becomes the highest die that you can have possible.
Gotcha.
So there's a gamble to using it.
For sure. I still want to use mine.
Perfect.
And I think I will release my hatred.
Okay.
Just kind of touching into that warrior of Wall Street, so to speak, that he's learned to balance his stress.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so Jason, go ahead and roll your 8 and 2, and then Joseph, roll your 7.
I rolled my 8, and here I roll my hate.
You're a public. I didn't know it.
Now, you guys heard me roll. Jeremy, I can take a picture of this.
No, man.
If you wish. I rolled 2 6s on the 8 and 2 6s on the hate.
Ooh. Okay.
Well, I have only rolled a single 6, but I got a pair of 5s.
Oh, no. Okay. So,
Q workshop for the win.
if you would please describe to me this final single moment. How does this go?
Jeremy, not Jeremy, Joe, I will let you describe your final few moments. You can lead us out of here.
All right. So, originally, Andrew charges back, swinging his blade high, appearing to look like he's still just hacking at debris and branches with a machete. But he twists and turns a bit and deftly brings the thing around. But William was prepared for it and saw the feint coming and was quickly able to come down and parry it. And the swords clanged, ringing through the swampy shoreline here, sending birds scattering, animals flooding through the underbrush as we stomp and crash through the wilderness here. Blades ring back and forth. A little nick from me here, a nick from William there, slicing and cutting both chest and arms into legs. And after about a half hour of this, the blade strikes fall slower and slower, with heavy breathing between each one as the two combatants are just sweating and just the fatigue pouring and soaking through their bodies. And one last moment, Andrew swings forward and catches a single thrust from William right down below the ribs, not into his heart, but enough to cripple him. And Andrew drops to the ground, and he knows, he can feel it. This is his last moment. And without turning his head, he says briefly and almost the barest whisper, but William can hear it amid the pounding of blood in their ears, pulsing through their temples. And he says, I always knew since that first time in the Atlantic when I met you that I was going to die by your goddamn hand, you son of a bitch. And the blade comes down and cleaves his head clean from his body as the clouds roll in and the thunder begins to boom as the quickening and all of the experiences pour into William.
There can be only one.
Who wants to live forever?
Man, what a hell of a story, guys.
That was awesome.
That was amazing. I applaud you guys. I applaud you. Jason, that was amazing. Man, Jeremy, this was badass.
Thank you, man. This went so phenomenally better than I even imagined it in my head, because of just, yeah, you guys were dynamite, like, in all seriousness. I was on the edge of my seat almost the entire time.
Me too.
I think
going.
I think when players get on the same page very early and put the effort into it in an equal measure, that these things become that much better. Joe, that I haven't played with you before, but I can't wait to play with you again, man. That was very cool.
Likewise, dude. Likewise. Thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. Like, I'm blown away by the both of you guys. Dude, Jason, like, Holy shit, man. You weave a mighty fine tale, and I am glad that I could be a part of it, dude. And likewise, I'd love to have you guys at a table in the future, anytime.
Sure, man.
You guys are always welcome.
We'll make that happen sometime soon.
All right. I guess this is one way to get ahead in life.
Womp womp womp.
I was trying so hard not to pun through the whole thing because it was not the time for puns.
No, not. Well, yeah. Do you guys have anything you want to plug or say goodbye?
Of my own, my on-air games have been sporadic lately, but I'm trying to get back on it. I'm in a campaign that I'm calling the Echoes of Zen on my channel, Smithforge Gaming. You're welcome to check out the first 6 episodes that are on the channel now. They run about 2.5 hours on average, so it's not a total slog to try to watch, but check it out if you're so inclined. I appreciate both Jeremy and Joe here. This was an excellent way to spend a Sunday evening. Jeremy, I love you, man. Joe, dude, you're awesome. Thank you so much. And that's it for me.
I don't really have much else to plug. Tiny YouTube channel. Check it out if you want. It's just live plays, sporadic, all kinds of different games. And definitely watch more Erasmus Expeditions, because to use the parable of the day or the phrasing of today's youth, it's the bomb diggity yo. Actually, I don't think that's current. Oh well.
You show your age, sir.
It's groovy, baby. Yeah. That's all I got. Thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me be part of it. You guys are fantastic and awesome.
Absolutely. And yeah, again, thank you guys so much for bringing your A+ games. Everybody, I've been Jeremy. This has been the Erasmus Expeditions. This is but one session of this tournament. We know that William Black-Eyed McCullen will be moving on. So there's going to be, we have yet to find out the fate of 6 additional Immortals who will meet in 3 other games scattered throughout November. Make sure to watch for those. And yeah, I can't thank these players enough, and the people that were tuning in to watch. Hopefully everybody was on edge and excited as I was the whole time. And I can't wait to do this again. And yeah, thank you guys so much for playing. You were fantastic. Everyone, good night, sayonara, etc., etc. And until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.